put it there, is it?
I got it. We've got this one.
Yeah, I put it there though.
Put it here.
Yeah, I put it there. Oh, sorry. Maybe I didn't take it out.
It's charging. For that.
Yeah. No.
نبدأ.
No.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So we continue inshallah ta'ala to discuss the book Sahih Al-Bukhari by Zabid rahimahullah, where he made a condensed book of Sahih Bukhari, and we have been covering this book for a while. So we continue from where we have left off in the last lesson, where we are still discussing Kitab al-Salah and those matters that relates to al-Salah, as mentioned in this particular Muqtasar of Sahih Al-Bukhari. So we're discussing concerning some of the ahkam that relates to what the person is allowed or not allowed to pray on regarding salat, and certain circumstances regarding the salat. So read through the hadith and then we'll discuss the hadith that is mentioned and the benefits that can be taken from it. تفضل.
ثوب الأحمر صح؟
قرأنا الذي بعد
حديث باب الصلاة في ثوب الأحمر.
أي
قرأنا
أي
الآن؟
لا الذي بعد.
طيب. الصلاة في سطوح.
أي
نعم طيب.
أي هو المنبر والخشب. أي
نعم. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. قال المؤلف رحمه الله. Chapter 15. Is it permissible to offer a salah, the prayer, on roofs and pulpits of wood? Hadith number 249, narrated by Abu Hazm or Abu Hazm or Sahih bin Sa'ad radiallahu anhu, was asked about the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam pulpit as to what thing it was made of. Sahih replied, none remains alive amongst the people who knows about it better than I. It was made of تمراسك.
what tam
لا في إنجليزي مشكلة.
is أي
أنا أمر فلان
what is there.
It says تمراسك, wood of the forest. I'm trying to find out before. Like تمراسك, wood of the forest, and so, the slave and so prepared it for Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When it was constructed and placed in the mosque, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam stood at it facing the Qibla and said, Allahu Akbar. And the people stood behind him and led the people in salah. He recited and bowed, and the people bowed behind him. Then he raised his head and stepped back, got down and prostrated on the ground, and then again ascended the pulpit, recited, bowed, raised his head and stepped back, got down and prostrated on the ground. So this is what I know about the pulpit.
خلاص.
Now,
So the thing that is mentioned regarding concerning the masala regarding all those things that relates to salat and ahkam, he mentioned as-salat. Just repeat what you mentioned regarding the chapter heading.
is it permissible to offer a salah? Is it in bracket?
Something that the general thing concern that Imam Bukhari or in the chapter he mentioned, it doesn't mention is it. So it is somewhat left open. Salat fi suhur wal mimbar wal khashab. Now, so the chapter heading based upon what is mentioned here is not per se posed in a form of a question. Now, so it's the tasawwuf, it's the action of the translator to put it in a question, where generally concerning what is understood is that also Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, that you want someone to put this as a masala or a case to be looked into regarding what is the level or the permissibility of one praying on the roof, a person regarding praying on the mimbar and also on khashab. So that's concerning the issue that he wished to discuss. Then I mentioned the hadith that have been read regarding concerning this matter, where the Sahabi, Asad bin Sa'd, قد سئل, where he was asked regarding min ayyi shay'in al-mimbar. So the person asked concerning that how was the Prophet ﷺ his mimbar. So can you give us a description of the Prophet ﷺ concerning his mimbar that he had. Then he went on to mention of the thing that they mentioned of so Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, that he wanted to discuss concerning the issue that relates to the permissibility. Is it permissible, or what is the permissibility, or not? What is the permissibility for a person to be praying on these type of things, on the roof, also on the mimbar, and also on khashab. So as we don't consider that the mimbar, that then, as we'll discuss, that is made of khashab, it is made of wood, and then you have the roof. But as for the hadith, it discussed more, so the hadith it discussed more concerning matters that relates to praying on the mimbar, which they mentioned that in the mimbar, the sense that the Imam, he was on an elevated, he was positioned at a higher place, and the people behind was lower than he was. Is this permissible to be done? And also praying on the mimbar. So he mentioned the hadith regarding that the Sahabi mentioned that فَقَالْ مَا بَكِيَ بِالنَّاسِ عَادَ مِنِّي, that regarding that he mentioned that there is no one that remains that understand or know of this matter more than I do. So they mentioned regarding concern that he, from this it shows that the permissibility for a person to praise himself, and mentioned that make it known that he somewhat in a particular matter or particular matter, that is a person that is precise and he knows this matter very well. So for a person can somewhat to praise themselves and to mention that in this particular matter that I know it, I know it very well, that means that the person doesn't fear fitna for himself, it can be said. So a person praising of himself, not fearing fitna upon himself, then it's something that can be said. And also it can be said to others, but we have the person also trying to inform others that on this matter I know very well. On this matter I'm somewhat, I'm a specialist, or I know very well this matter, so as to let the people feel confident that the person who's speaking is qualified. So it shows the level of qualification on this. So they mentioned regarding certain hadith that they mentioned that as for this mimbar, that it is made of made of a wood, that it was made of. They mentioned regarding concerning min ayyi shay'in al-mimbar, that when they asked regarding the mimbar the Prophet ﷺ that he used to use, then also it shows that it is permissible for the masjid to have within it a mimbar. So it shows the permissibility of masajid to have within them a mimbar, and for the imam to use it as needed. Then they mentioned the hadith regarding concerning that the Prophet ﷺ that he mentioned for qala fa'amilahu fulan. They discussed regarding concerning as for the person who built this mimbar, that a long discussion between the ulama regarding trying to identify who's the person, or the najjar, the person who's the carpenter that made the mimbar. So you have a lengthy discussion regarding who's the person who made this mimbar. Mentioned Mawla Fulana, that the person who did so was like the helper of such and such a lady. So they try to identify who is the person who built the mimbar, the najjar, the man who built it, and also who was this lady. Who is this lady? So a lengthy discussion between the ulama regarding regarding identifying the person who built the mimbar. So you find the likes of Ibn Malakin that he mentioned or put forth certain names of the possible people who were the ones, or the possible person who built the mimbar. But there's a discussion regarding identifying who this person was who built the mimbar. So they mentioned regarding concerning of the name concerning Asad and mimbar, they mentioned Maymun, Najjar, also they mentioned Qabisa, Makhzumi, also they mentioned Suba, Ghulam, Abbas, and another person mentioned Ibrahim. So several names that have been mentioned regarding trying to identify who's the person who built this mimbar. But in the hadith, it didn't mention the person by name. So it has mentioned Mawla Fulan, that he was a slave person of such a lady. As for trying to discuss or to identify who's this lady, that also Ibn Hajar rahimahullah mentioned that she's from the Ansar. That she's from the Ansariya, Ali from the Ansar. As for the identifier, then also that's a discussion between the ulama. They mentioned that the Prophet Islam qama alayhi, that is mimbar, qama alayhi, that he stand on the mimbar, and this regarding as-salah. So here Islam, that he prayed on the mimbar, and they mentioned وَحِينَ عُمِلَ وُضِعَ. So the member was made, then it was placed in the masjid. فَاسْتَقْبَلَ الْقِبْلَةِ. Then he alayhi salam, then he went onto the member and he prayed on the member. So he prayed, they mentioned, we use the word member, the Arabic word they use in English, pulpit. Pulpit. So the member that is described, that is like, we know ordinary member that is used in the masajid. So it's the member that is known, so it has X amount of darajat or steps that the person will climb and get to the top. So they mentioned, as for the Prophet ﷺ member, initial member or military ad, that is of 3 levels. So the Prophet ﷺ, his member was of 3 levels that was built. Then, so they mentioned that 3 levels was his member, and when he prayed on the member, that he standed on the 2nd step. So not the first, but the 2nd, as the 3rd is for sitting. So the 3rd step level is for sitting. So he would, so he stand, and then he prayed on the member, that he made all the move of qiyam while on the member, al-ruku, and the people also follow behind, and they were below on the ground. So he would make ruku, they will follow. When it was time for him to make sujood, then he will come back to the ground level, or to the ground itself, step back, and he would make sujood. He would step back onto the ground or the floor level, and he would make a sujood. So he would not make sujood on the member, but he will descend from the member backwards and make a sujood. So they mentioned concerning, so that's concerning this hadith, showing the permissibility. So from the hadith it mentions, or what can be taken, that it shows the permissibility for the imam to as a tool to teach the people, that he can stand on an elevated area to teach the people. And of this concerning salah. So of this regarding salat, with the Prophet ﷺ, that he taught the people the salah by way of praying on the minbar, so he could be seen. So they mentioned that this is permissible to be done. The next matter that discussed from the hadith, that of ulama will mention that it is jawaz, it is permissible that for the imam to be on an elevated area while the people are below him. So the imam can be above and they're below, and none of the people that are able can see the imam, or they can see the sufuf. So as for the Prophet ﷺ, he was above on the minbar and the people were below. They have so the ulama mentioned that is something which is permissible, even though so from the hadith show the permissibility of this act, where the imam can be above and the people are below. That and this is the position of the jumhur of the ulama. So jumhur, majority of the ulama, take the position that it is something which is allowed. Even there is some khilaf in the matter, so jumhur of the ulama, that it is something which is permissible. And the Prophet ﷺ, he did so as in the hadith that is mentioned here. And those who of this view, they mention Ash-Shafi'iyya wal-Ahnaf wal-Anabila wal-Layth ibn Sa'd, that all that is permissible amongst ulama. That Layth ibn Sa'd, that also he ordered something which is, he says permissible, but it is disliked, where someone says not, it is permissible, but dislike to be done if there's no valid reasons. So if there's no haja, there's no need, then it should not be done. But if it is done, it's something which is disliked. It is something which is disliked. As for Imam Malik, rahimahullah, then he believes or take the position that regarding the Imam being above and the people below, that it is not permissible. He ordered to something which is mamnu. It's something which is not permissible for the Imam to pray or the salat to be done in that fashion. As for the matter of any of others, Awzahi, who take that it is something which is also mamnu. So amongst the ulama who all concerned is something which is disliked, the Imam Ahmad rahimahullah have a dislike to this, as some have mentioned, but overall that's one of the ulama regarding the imam being above praying and those of behind being below the imam, that majority hold is something which is permissible, is something which is permissible. As for the next scenario regarding that imam is below and those behind are above, that also the ulama who hold that they dislike this, for the imam to be below and the worshippers behind, that they're above the imam, that they dislike this act. They have a dislike to this act. As I mentioned, the hadith mentioned the Prophet Islam being above and the people being below. So that's the aqwal of the ulama regarding the permissibility of this act. And as we mentioned, that is something which is allowed with jumhur ulama. And also Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, of those who are inclined towards that view. Imam Bukhari also of those who are inclined towards the permissibility of this. As what he mentioned next regarding suhud, which is concerning suhud, or sutuh, which is the roof, which is regarding the roof. As for this hadith doesn't mention about a roof. So the hadith doesn't mention per se a roof. That they mention regarding the situation regarding praying on people praying on the roof, where they mention regarding the case of Abu Hurairah. So they mention regarding the case of Abu Hurairah. So they mention that it is permissible based upon that if the imam being above and the people being below, also in a situation of a roof situation, then also it is permissible. Where the imam is below and the person praying on the roof on top. So that's that discussion that they have. Of those who are regarding concerning the matter regarding that it is not allowed for the imam to be too high above the people. So you find out those who mention the imam is too high above the people, then it is something which is not permissible. So they mention that the height distance between the imam of the people, that it should not exceed that of the mimbar of the third level. So the imam can be above, if he's unlike a mimbar, and to that extent, anything above that, it is not permissible. Anything above this, it is not permissible. So that's the aqwal of the ulama on this matter. After the next matter, they discuss regarding al-khashab, that regarding concerning the mimbar, it is made from wood. So the mimbar, it is made of wood. So it shows the permissibility of praying on wood. It shows the permissibility of this. Then also they mention regarding that of the benefit of the hadith, it shows that it is permissible by way of to teach the people, or if there is a need for the imam to kind of somewhat taught in a practical way, demonstrate to the people how to pray. And the people actually follow the imam in this. So for teaching educational purpose, then a person can pray where the people can view the person, but it is intended that the intention is to teach the people. Also, as we mentioned, that this hadith shows the permissibility of having a mimbar in the masjid. So the mimbar will be fitted in the front of the masjid, where it is used for the khutbah, and also the Prophet ﷺ also used the mimbar for adhan the khutbah. So for adhan the khutbah, if the person has to give a general lecture, then the mimbar also can be used for that purpose. A discussion between the ulama regarding the matter, regarding the mimbar, regarding the height of the mimbar. What's the height or the levels of the mimbar? So you find that a discussion that especially most of, they find that majority of the ulama that they per se does not put or set the height of the mimbar. So it could be 3 or above. So the mimbar, they have mentioned that it is ideal to have the 3 steps level. As the Prophet ﷺ, his mimbar was of that level. But also if one was to exceed this, is it permissible? That the majority of it is something which is permissible. Majority of the ulama, that they believe that it's something that is permissible for the mimbar to be above the 3rd step level. They also like now of contemporary times, that after some of the ulama of contemporary times, that have taken the position that for the mimbar, it is a bid'ah for the mimbar to exceed the 3rd level, the 3rd step or 3 steps. So of that, the view of more contemporary discussion, even though still majority of the contemporaries take the position that it's not a bid'ah to exceed 3 steps, but of the ulama who have taken this position. That as for the mimbar, as we said, it is known for what its purpose is regarding for the khutbah and for other things. That what one see in some of the masajid, that sometimes they have this thing, I'm not sure, is it another mihrab, that they call, I'm not sure what you call it, and it reminds me of Christianity, of a church. That's my memory. You know the thing that they have, like the wood that you put up, they have like a older, you know what I'm speaking of?
No. He owns the books.
Yes, so when the khutbah is given, and the imam, the khatib, so rather than though you have something that is there that someone can put his paper on, what do you call that?
It's pulpit also, yeah. It's part of the pulpit.
Like a stand, use the word like a stand. But it says, you know, that, so the thing is concerned that the Prophet Islam never had this.
Like a railing.
The It's not a rail. It's a stand. Like a stand. Yeah, the person can put his sheets and read, but not it's a stand that is there. That so this stand that was after Prophet Islam did not have it, nor the Salaf had it. That's the word I'm thinking, but I don't want to use that. But we're just saying that stand. Now, that stand thing, the Prophet Islam didn't have it, nor the Salaf had it, but it's become adopted today. Become adopted by some. So the things to look at concerning, is this practice something that needs to be looked into? Is this practice something that needs to be looked into regarding, as I said, from those who, from other faiths of Christianity, is a thing that they use in their church, but now been adopted by some of the Muslim. Is this something? So is this thing that needs to be looked into regarding? What's the hukum regarding the use of this thing? What's the hukum regarding? In a case where the person, if he has paper, he has all the paper in his hand.
It's called a lectern.
Lectern?
No, it's altar.
Or out?
Altar.
It's called a lectern.
No.
Okay, so those are the names that it has. So where's the name that you got there?
Lectern.
Lectern. And some call the altar. So this thing, to believe is that whatever name it is given or referred to as, is a matter that needs to be looked into. When a person is adopting it, regarding concerning giving a khutbah, this practice is something that has a basis in Islam. Does it have a basis in Islam? That's the general thing. That's the general matter. And after that they discuss regarding concerning that. So after those matters discussed regarding the mimbar, and after those things that some of the Shaykh have discussed regarding that of some of the mimbars that they're very high and wide, where actually sometimes they break the saf. So saf al-awwal sometimes it can extend, where kind of somewhat it will break that saf. Then in those cases then that becomes a bit exaggeration regarding the use of the mimbar and how it is built and the decoration of the mimbar. Then also, as we have discussed in previous lesson regarding the excessive decoration of the masjid, and of this the mimbar. Then we discussed after 5 of this hadith concerning that from the hadith we mentioned about that the Prophet ﷺ, that he stepped back from off the mimbar or moved back. They show that also that the ulama mentioned that from this it shows that jawaz is permissible, that a person can have some movement in salat which is yasir. So the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he wanted to make sujood, he will come back off the mimbar and make sujood. So he made those steps. They mentioned that person making certain movements in salat, that is something which is permissible to be done. It's permissible to be done instead of the harakat al-yasir or amal yasir. So slight actions, that's not per se of the acts of salat, can be done especially if there's a reason for this. They find out of ulama that if the person was to make two, they mentioned that the Prophet of ulama in this hadith, they mentioned that he was on the second step. When he moved back, he came back just one step down. So they mentioned that is allowed. But if the person was to do three or more steps back or forward, then according to them that is the person making too many movements. So extra movements, if it exceed 2-3 steps, then the person is salat according to them is batil. Now, because they say that the person adding steps, movements to salat, that is not a part of salat. If this concerned a person moving forward or backwards more than twice, then the person's salat is batil. But that's a qawl of some of the ulama. But if there's a need, the person can make as much step as required. Of those steps that sometimes may be done to be discussed further in more detail, at times that a person believes that it is wajib to have a sutra. He is late in the salah, or he positioned the salat where when the salat have ended with Imam, he still needs to complete his salah. But his sutra is a distance away from him. So it's with the Imam, the Imam in the Salah, where he's positioned in the Salat, in the Saf, that when the Salat ends, he needs to make a few, his sutra is away from him. So he wants to get closer to his sutra. But the distance between him and that sutra is many steps. Not just 2 steps, 3 steps, it is many steps. Now, so in that case, the person needs to make all those steps to the Salah. So it's between the ulama, so that is the matter, so that so of those things, the person then have to see that where he may be massive, very, very large, and he may have to walk a far distance. So for the person, can someone to be the one to weigh and assess the situation regarding how much step he needs to take to reach his sutra, based upon his circumstance, or that circumstance. Whether the person is walking and for too long, where if you see me thinking, he's in Salah. He's in Salah, because he's just walking to go towards the sutra, and he's walking thinking, he's in Salah. What is he doing? Now, so for the person, someone, few steps, but too many steps, then for the person to, as it not, make that judgment and to see what is more ideal. Also, it shows regarding concerning that as I mentioned regarding concern that also from the Hadith of the Prophet Islam, that given concern emphasis regarding the Salah. And given this is important here, that to the extent with the Prophet Islam, that he would teach the people prayer on the mimbar, so that people can see exactly how to pray properly. Now, so it shows regarding the importance of Salah, and to the extent that the Prophet Islam would take these measures to ensure that people learn how to pray correctly. So it shows the Muslim that one should put emphasis regarding Salah, and also those matters that relates to as-Salah. So Al-Khattabi, I mentioned that Al-Khattabi, of those of the early ones, one of the first explanation of Sahih Bukhari was done by Khattabi. So he mentioned regarding the Prophet Islam member, it was 5 levels, of 3 levels, 3 levels. So that's concerning of the benefits can be taken from this hadith. Aywa?
So is it wajib to have a sutra? Is it wajib?
It's wajib to have a sutra. Aye. But maybe it's a person that's this comes that it's wajib to have, but if the person pray without it, is salat nullified or not? So salat is not nullified if he was to pray without a sutra. Now, but he has forfeit something which is of the wajibat of salah. Now, so salatul al, we said some deficiency by not putting in place something that should be there. So said that in the case the person who is praying already in the salah, he said in this case that the person, he joined the salah, but he has to walk a far distance. So if it's 2 steps, mashi, is understandable if it's a few steps. But a person has to make like 20 steps to reach a sutra, or 10 steps, where a person looking at him may be thinking, is he in salah? Of the distance that he's walking. Now, so of those things for the person to consider. Aywa.
So, can the member be made by something other than wood? Can the member be made by anything other than wood?
And the member said that the member could be made of metal. No? Or, you understand, so it could be made also of brick. No? So those things could be used as a member. So the discussion, so it's not a must, as some of the hadith mentioned, the Prophet was not the one who instructed the person as to how many steps. Now, so as for that, so on that discussion, so yes, it could be made of other material. Now, it's just as I said, with the more practical of those material, that will be either metal, light metal, we can move easily, or of wood, which still is somewhat can be moved easily.
Just obviously mentioned about him being elevated for learning purposes. But if it's not for learning purposes, and it's for another necessity that he had to be elevated, for example, I don't know.
If whatever reason may be.
Yeah.
Everything is permissible. Sometimes if there's a haja, there's a need, so the need could be for various reasons. That he might see that it is necessary that he pray in that fashion, then it becomes permissible because, one, there's a need. Now, or it serves a benefit. It serves a benefit. Hey, what's the hadith that follows?
قال المؤلف رحمه الله, chapter 16, to offer salah, the prayer, on a hasir, a mat that is made of leaves and date palm trees and is as long as the date palm trees and is as long
Hey,
as...
before we move to the hadith of the next matter that comes regarding this hadith of the Prophet of Islam, that he was praying in that fashion, that even though you have studies now being written on the topic regarding that a person wants to go to, let's take the example of Mecca. Now, in the Haram in Mecca. Now we find that with Mecca, you find that the masjid, even Medina, the masjid are different levels, isn't it? And even masjid, even many masajid are like that now, where I know a masjid is being built and they have 8-story high. Now, but the things that was found in the masajid, you find that's not concerned the imam, he may be on one level, maybe the ground level, and you find that places for the musallin, that they are on different levels. So on different levels, and so it shows the permissibility of this. Also by extension, that the case concerned that in the Haram, that those people who pray outside, even in the hotels. So you have the hotels that are very close to the Haram. Now, and they may have, even though within those hotels, they have a musalla, a prayer area, where people pray following the Imam in the Haram. So, that's the case?
Yeah.
Now, is that salat valid? So the Imam in the masjid, and you have a courtyard, and from the courtyard, then you have the building, and they are praying inside the building. See the scenario? So in those scenarios, is such a salah, they can valid. Is such a salat valid?
Is that a question for us or you?
It is formed as a rhetorical question type of thing, so can understand the context and have a picture of what is being discussed. So in a nutshell, they mention regarding concerning this matter, that regarding concerning that one, that so in discussing the matter, they mentioned that one, for example, the case in the Haram, where even sometime in the local masajid, the Imam is inside the building and the people are outside. I was saying in this case, you have people in the courtyard and then you have people inside another building. They said if the sufuf are still there, muttasil, that still extend, then that's okay. Because you have the rows, they're still extending, so that's just a continuation of this, even though it's inside a building. Now, those who mentioned says that that's not a problem. That's okay. Some mention if they some mention that if it's a situation where the lines may be still there, but it's like a used road in between that building and the Imam. So you have the Imam praying in this building. You have a road in between and people praying in this building or praying behind. Then I of those who that because this road is a road being used by a car, then that break that's off. That break, that's off. But it's something where it is still continuous, there's no the sufuf are in the street that still extend, then there's no problem. But if the road is still being used by the cars, then it break the saf. So it means that those behind their salat is invalid. Those who mention if they can still hear the Imam. Now, so the fact that they can still hear the Imam, then their salat is still intact because they can still hear and follow the Imam because of, even though they may not see the Imam, but they can hear the Imam, then their salat is still valid. So you have a discussion between the ulama on that particular topic. So said if, like in the Haram, the normal case would be in the courtyard, you still have some sufuf, and sometimes that might extend even to the building that is behind. Now most of you have traveled for Umrah, isn't it? So you see that in those buildings, that you see that people pray inside the buildings. Now, then if it is muttasil, which in most Kenyan standards is, so even though say muttasil doesn't mean that the row before you have to be completely full. Now it doesn't mean that everything has to be full. As long as you have row still there that is continuous going, then it is allowed. It is allowed. And that's what is valid.
So, going back to the sutra, is it permissible to be someone's sutra when they're facing the other way? So they're praying towards your back?
That comes the hadith, that next hadith. Next hadith, we'll discuss that point inshallah. Aywa. But just that quickly, yes. So a person that is there and they're sitting or maybe standing, they're sitting and you pray using the sutra, then it is jaiz. It is jaiz. Aywa.
Rahimahullah, chapter 16, to offer a salah, the prayer, and a hasir, a mat that is made of leaves of date palm trees and is as long as or longer than the man's stature. Hadith 250, narrated by Ishaq. Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu said, my grandmother Mulaika invited Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam for a meal which she herself had prepared. He ate from it and said, get up, I will lead you in the salah. Anas added, I took my hasir, washed it with water as it had become dark because of long use, and Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam stood on it. The orphan and I aligned behind him, and the old lady Malaika stood behind us. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam led us in the salah and offered 2 rak'ah and left.
Yes, the next idea they discussed regarding the matter regarding as-salat al-hasir, which is the person praying on what they said hasir is. Leaves.
A mat that is made of leaves of date palm trees.
So it shows regarding concern that know that that also shows regarding concern hasir, which would be like they said now, it's a mat but made of what was available then. Which will concern the date palms, leaves, they'll use them kind of somewhat tie them together and they make them into a form of mat, which still somewhat is done today. Like parts regarding of those type of mats that are still weaved and today. So that was necessary. So here Islam, they mentioned we are in the Hadith of Anas, they mentioned أن جدته مليكة دعت رسول الله السلام لطعام صنعته له. That his grandmother Mulaika, that she made some food for the Prophet Islam, she invited him. So they mentioned first, from that it shows regarding that it showed that concerning the person responding to an invitation, even though it's not something which is, they said it's not, of course, invitation which is wajib. So for example, a person invites you to a walima. Now, then invitation to a walima, a bridal celebration, it is of ulama owners, it is wajib to attend if you have been invited. So the person specified, you in his invitation invited you personally, then it becomes wajib upon you to attend. And in general, so they mentioned that, so in this case, general invitation, a person having some food over, they invite you over, as either general, like eat for a supper or dinner, then that's not wajib to attend. But for the walima, is more wajib, is more compulsory that one should attend. But as for the general invitation, is not wajib, it is mustahab. So in this case, the Prophet ﷺ was invited and he responded. So it shows regarding concerning that one, that the Prophet ﷺ being a messenger, a person of authority and standing, now that the general people could invite him and he would attend. So having that type of regarding the people and the leader, having that type of relationship, now where they would invite them over and they would attend that accept that invitation for food and the likes. So I mentioned that Islam, so it showed that also the Prophet Islam concerning his humility. Ay Shaykh, tafaddal, that the Prophet Islam humility, that when he's invited to something, he will accept. And I mentioned concerning Anas, where she was somewhat, the family was like known to the Prophet Islam, or well known to the Prophet Islam.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadar رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Alhamdulillah. So I mentioned regarding that one of the benefits from the hadith that it shows regarding istihbab, ijabat al-dawah, so a person accepting an invitation. So a person accepted an invitation from the Prophet ﷺ, that he accepted the invitation that was extended to him, and he went and mentioned فَأَكْلَ مِنْ, and also he ate from the food that was provided. So he ate from the food that was provided. Then it mentioned ثُمَّ قال, then he then he said to the people, قُومُوا أُصَلِّي لَكُمْ. Then he mentioned that, stand and we'll pray together. So we stand and that to pray together with the people, are those who were present and those who were present. So it shows regarding concerning that they mentioned regarding فَكُمْتُ, they mentioned قال أنس, with the shahid from the hadith mentioned, قال أنس, with the narrative of the hadith, فَكُمْتُ إِلَى حَصِيرٍ لَنَا, that I can somewhat that I get like prepared this hasir, this thing that we had, and can somewhat laid it out. So they had this mat that they had made of the leaves that they prepared, that they put it out for the Prophet Islam to pray on this. So from make sure that praying on something, so it could be then it was that type of mat that was used then. So also in our times it would be the mat that we have today. So like on carpet and the likes, praying on those things, it is jaiz. So it shows the permissibility of praying on those things. So that's the shahid from hadith to show that it is permissible for the person to pray on these or whatever is there, that one can pray on those things, and it's something which is jaiz, is not something which is haram. Then also it shows regarding concerning that, then also mentioned that, that they mentioned, with the hadith also mentioned, until regarding the Prophet that they made themselves into sufuf, into lines, and he and yatim, and they lined up together, and also the old lady that she prayed on her own. So it shows that concern that a woman that if she prays separate from the man, it shows the woman that she prays separate from the man in the sufuf. Then I mentioned for some of that he prayed al Islam rakatain, so he prayed rakatain with the people. From this, he showed that the Prophet regarding this salat, that is salat which is nafila. So they mentioned the salat that he prayed, salatul nafila, and he showed that at times it is permissible for one to pray salatul nafila in a jama, in a person's house. So he did inside the home of Mulaika, that and they prayed the salat jama in her house. So at times it's something which is allowed. Sometimes it is allowed to do so, but not take it as a regular practice. Not to be done as a regular practice. So that's concerning in brief regarding that hadith. The hadith that follows, or there's two hadith, to discuss the.
Yeah, there's two hadith.
I mentioned them.
Just a question. You see in the translated version, how come it speaks about a narrator that's not mentioned in the hadith?
What narrated?
In the first one it said in the narrated by Abu Salama, and then it said Aisha and Aisha in Arabic.
Yeah, that the next hadith to be read, or the one that we just.
All of them have done it. So the one before was Anas ibn Malik.
Aye.
In brackets in English, in brackets it says narrated by Ishaq, and then in the
And-
hadith before that done it as well.
It is a part of the isnad of that hadith. So Ishaq is part of the hadith, but because of the author, because of the muhtasar, so they dropped the isnad and just went straight to Sahabi. But you have some discussion regarding, so Ishaq is one of the narrators in the isnad,
Not the last one.
and one of Anas ibn Malik.
Okay.
Aye. So they have a discussion regarding with Ishaq, regarding mention, and jaddatuhu. This jadda, this grandparent, is it the grandparent of Ishaq or Anas?
Yeah.
We have that discussion, that's why you may have mentioned
Ishaq.
Ishaq. We have a discussion regarding who's the grandparent of whom? Who does it go back to? Does it go to Anas, the last person mentioned, or another narrator? Sometimes also I think concerning the ulama of hadith, at times when they mention hadith and they don't, that they may, like in this case, like most, but the ulama of hadith, when they mention something in isnad, they may not mention a full isnad, they mention a few of the narrators. Still, they'll still mention the last few narrators other than the Sahabi. But in this case, generally, they don't mention other than the Sahabi.
قال المؤلف رحمه الله, chapter 17, to offer as-salah, the prayer on the bed. Hadith number 251, narrated by Abu Salama. Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, said, I used to sleep in front of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and my legs were towards his qibla. And in prostration he pushed my legs and I withdrew them. And when he stood, I stretched them. Aisha radiallahu anha added, in those days the houses were without lights. Hadith number 252, narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam offered the salah while I was laying like a dead body on his family bed between him and his qibla.
So the hadith is mentioned regarding the service hadith as narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha, al-Mu'mineen, that as mentioned, as-salat al-firash, where the hadith discussed showing the permissibility, jawaz, the permissible for a person to pray on their bed. So the person to pray on the bed, it is something which is permissible. With the condition that the bed is clean. So with the condition is something which is clean. So it is something which is permissible. And the hadith mentioned that kuntum anam bin yadayhi, that Aisha radiallahu anha, that she was sleeping or lying down on the bed where the Prophet of Islam was praying. That it mentioned that her feet was extended in the direction of his qibla. Now, فَإِذَا سَجَدَ, that whenever he wished to, when he went down into sujood, that he can somewhat remove or poke her leg, and she would move them. So that mentioned from the hadith that and when he went back, then she'll extend them out. Then from the hadith and the other hadith also mentioned something similar. From the hadith, or both those two hadith, it shows regarding that the permissibility that for which is a woman to be in the direction of the person's qibla, and part of her body is there. So a discussion between the ulama that you have one. So in this case, that Aisha was there in the direction of his qibla. Now, and he prayed in that manner. So a discussion between the ulama regarding, I mentioned that a female in front of you, is your salat valid if a female is in front of you? Does she nullify your salat or not? So in the case regarding a man, there is no issue. Now, that even a man, he wants to walk in front of your salat is still valid. Now, the case regarding that if a female is the one in front of you, does that nullify your salah? So one year, the case where Aisha, she was somewhat just laying, she was there in front of him, and he prayed without renewing his salah. So his salat is valid, and that salat is valid. So you have another case, a case where if of the ulama all regarding that, a female that walks in front of you, then your salat is invalid. Clear? So in this case, she was still, they have a case where a female move in between you while you're praying, in front of you while you're praying. In that case, your salat is invalid. So if she was to move in front, walk across, then your salat is invalid. If she is just there, standing, not moving, your salat is still valid. So you have murur when they move in front, but if they're still, then your salat is still valid. That's the call of Jumhur of the ulama. So Jumhur of the ulama, that the salat is valid. That's the call of Jumhur of the ulama. But of the Anabila, of other ulama, the person's salat is invalid. So you have the Jumhur that Jumhur take the position that even if she moves in front, your salat is still valid. But the more correct view that the person's salat is invalid if mature adult woman was to walk in front of you while praying. Your salat is invalid. But if she just stands there still, your salat is valid. If she stands there or part of her body, then so the entire body move in front, your salat is invalid. If just the hand or the feet, then it is still valid. It is still valid. Or she's there as your sutra. She's there and you pray towards and she's there, then it is still valid. So from the hadith it shows that a portion of the body does not invalidate, but the full body invalidates. The full body invalidates. Also from the hadith it shows that touching a female does not nullify your wudu. So the Prophet says of the ulama that a female, if a man was to touch a female, then your wudu is invalid. So in this case, the Prophet said that he touched her. They explained that saying that he touched her, there was a partition between them. Because she was on the bed, lying down. So they said that there's something in between, but the hadith doesn't indicate this. Now the hadith does not indicate this, and the general view that so a woman that touching her does not deem the person's wudu to be invalid. Does not deem the person's wudu to be invalid. And also it shows regarding that the Prophet said regarding al-qiyamul layl, that of something which is not wajib, or something which is mustahab to be done. That for the person to get up a portion of the night and to carry out qiyam al-layl. And I mentioned in quick regarding qiyam al-layl, for the person that somewhat out to the approach that one with qiyam al-layl, that a person that he starts out, if he's not a regular practice, as he finishes Salatul Isha and he prays his sunan, then he prays his witr. Then when he gets into that habit, then he goes to the next case that before he sleeps, so he prays Isha, before he sleeps, he prays his witr. Then when he becomes comfortable with this, then he sleeps and then get up. And so he used that format regarding building regarding having qiyamul layl. So start with the easier one before you sleep. Initially pray your witr right after Salatul Isha. Then a person get used to that routine, then go to the next level, that before you sleep, so you pray, eat, do whatever you're doing, then before you sleep, you pray witr. And then later on, you do it, get up in the night, and best the last third of the night. The last third of the night. So that inshallah will end and continue next.